As people begin to become more comfortable with going out, some businesses may become more comfortable with letting some things slide. The Oregon Liquor Control Commission has been tasked with making sure that businesses do enforce those COVID-19 requirements. Right now, a Jackson County bar is under review for a gathering reported last weekend. The Oregon Liquor Control Commission suspended the liquor license for Jam and Salmon yesterday for violating social distancing and face covering requirements. Joining us now is Mark Pettinger, the spokesperson for Oregon's Liquor Control Commission. Thanks for being with us today.
Glad to be with you, Anna.
So the first question I have is, how serious is this incident that we're seeing at Jam and Salmon compared to the others that the OLCC has investigated?
Well, it's significant enough. And just to give you a little bit of history, it was just last Friday that the commission passed temporary rules linking our authority to the social distancing and face covering requirements to enable us to take immediate action against a licensee where there was really willful and flagrant activity and defiance of the face covering rules and the social distancing guidelines. So on Saturday, when OLCC showed up at the Jam and Salmon, you really could say that they were more than packed to the gills with customers. They were spilling out into the street and the adjacent property, and they were not in compliance. Not in compliance with OLCC rules regarding the operation of a licensed alcohol establishment, and most obvious and apparent, not abiding by the requirements of social distancing and face coverings.
Now, as we understand it, for this specific incident, local law enforcement had notified the OLCC. How often are you called by local authorities to investigate incidents like this one?
Well, generally not so often. It shouldn't come as a surprise that OLCC is out inspecting bars and restaurants. We do that all the time, and we do it with a larger number of inspectors every single weekend. So we're out always looking to make sure that that bars and restaurants aren't serving to visibly intoxicated persons, to make sure that no minors are on the premises and being served alcohol. So adding the face covering and the social distancing checks to our work isn't a significant thing. So we're already out there doing that kind of activity. But specifically with regard to this weekend and the Jam and Salmon, our understanding is this actually started as a complaint from neighbors to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department regarding heavy traffic and cars spilling out onto the roadway in terms of being parked in illegal places. And so my understanding is law enforcement arrived on the scene first, and then when they saw what was going on and sort of to them clear violations of the governor's guidelines, that's when they called the OLCC, and that's when we arrived.
Now, is that something that you guys have been seeing as well, aside from local law enforcement maybe calling you guys in? Have people who have gone to these bars and restaurants maybe called the OLCC and been like, hey, I was here and they weren't abiding by those guidelines?
We do get some tips from customers, yes, but again, we've had our inspection staff out every single weekend since the 4th of July weekend, and doing saturation checks of licensees across the state. And with the exception really of the first weekend and maybe a little bit the second weekend, most restaurants and bars across the state have been complying with these guidelines. And there's some seriousness for them in this, because this is about them being able to survive in a business environment that's been ravaged by the pandemic. And so they want to do everything they can to stay open and functioning and making some money. And so there are instances too where some restaurants and bars are calling out bars and restaurants that aren't abiding or aren't following the rules, because they realize that those folks who aren't following the rules could jeopardize this for all of the hospitality industry.